rock a ball, baby. 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 Rock a ball, baby.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's go ahead and welcome everybody in today. This afternoon, or this evening, rather, I would like to have a professional debate, right? So today, we're going to talk about change, right? And I think this is a fitting topic because there's a lot of change that's going on around us. And often, you know, us as human beings, these creatures they call human beings, we don't like change. We don't like change. And that's okay. That's okay, you know, because change is different. But tonight, I want to have a professional debate. So if you are watching, please feel free to weigh in the comments. And this is going to be a little bit different. So it's not going to just be me up here talking. I want your feedback. I want to hear what everyone has to say. And I want to hear people weigh in on this topic. Now, here we go, right? Let's talk about change. Now, look, I'm not going to say anything here tonight that's going to be groundbreaking or mind-changing or anything like that. Tonight is about reminding people, right? So we're reminding people, and I want to get everybody's feedback. So let's talk about change, right? We have a lot of change in our organizations right now. Our female soldiers, they have a wide array of hairstyles and things that they can have now, and there's people that don't like that. Males can have hair highlights in their hairs, people that don't like that. We have male soldiers who can have beards if they have a religious exemption or they have a profile. You got people that don't like that either. We're going to talk about all that tonight. We're going to talk about all that stuff tonight. But before we get started, I want to talk about a couple concepts, right? So first concept I want to talk about is confirmation bias. And we're laying the groundwork here. What's going on? What's going on there, Hurricane? TPSGL in the house too. But let's talk about a couple concepts before we get started, right? The first concept that I want to talk about, because we're laying, you know, ground rules so everybody know where we're coming from, is confirmation bias. Now, what is the confirmation bias? The confirmation bias is, to sum it up, to get to the point, as Latoya always tell me, basically, you're going to find what you're looking for. That's what the confirmation bias is. If you believe something, you will collect information that supports your belief, and you will ignore information that goes against it. And this is not good when we want to make a decision or we want to do something that's productive, because attention to the data that's there. Now, that's confirmation bias. That's one part before we get to change. Second part is, let's talk about the word like. What does like mean? Because we got this whole conversation, leadership versus leadership, right? And I heard somebody say one time that, you know, when you look at leadership and you look at friendship, they're both types of relationships. And in both of these relationships, the end goal is the same. We want people to be taken care of. We just go about doing it differently, right? Now, another thing I heard was this: friendship doesn't become a problem until, as a leader, when you allow your friendship to get in front of what your job is, and it starts affecting how you make decisions that affect the entire organization, or, you know, positively or negatively affect somebody. That's when friendship becomes a problem. So the word like just means familiar. That's it. It means familiar. It's something that you're used to, something that you know, I don't want to use the word like, but it's something that you're used to, something that you're familiar with, right? So the word like means familiar. So we talked about confirmation bias, right? Let me close this door. The dogs out here want to get crazy. So we got confirmation bias, we got that one laid down, and the word like. Now let's talk about change. All right. So like I said, tonight is different. I want to get everybody's feedback. Please get into the comments so we can talk about, what y'all are thinking about what I'm saying. So just I want to say yesterday I had a conversation with some young non-commissioned officers, right? And they were talking about the new hair standard. They were talking about new hair standard. And this young female non-commissioned officer said, "Hey, what is this? Like, why do we have to have these ponytails and stuff? What is this? Is this is it a fashion show?" And this is what she said. She said, "Is this a fashion show? There's nothing wrong with what we have." And what I would like for leaders to do is this, and me and TPSGL was talking about this today. What I would like for leaders to do is this. When you hear something like that, don't get upset. Don't get upset. Step away from the situation, right? Take yourself out of the space that you're in and do some reflection. Remember, there was a time when you thought like that young leader that's standing in front of you right now. There was a time where you thought the same way that she thought, but it was a little different. We couldn't voice our opinions and we can say things, and that may have stunted some of our growth. Like, imagine if she had not said that out loud and she just thought it. We would have never been able to have this opportunity to have that conversation. So the conversation went something like this. I fed into it. I fed right into it. Because I wanted to hear where she was going to go with it. So I said, fashion show, huh? She was like, yeah. She was like, this is crazy. She's like, it looks unprofessional. I'm like, okay, tell me what professional looks like. And she goes on and she starts stating like, what she thought what professional looked like. And it takes me back to a time when I was in ALC and an instructor came into the classroom over at the good old ALU. Instructor comes in the classroom. He puts shades on his head, like just on the top of his head. And he puts his hands in his pockets and he sits on the desk. And this is sacrilege. Any NCO, this is sacrilege. We ain't having that. Like, you can't put your hands in your pockets. You dang on sure ain't gonna have no shades on your head and sitting on the desk. What did that desk do to you? Why are you sitting on the desk? Like, that's a no-go, right? Because these are things that we have deemed to be unprofessional. And the conversation ensued. And the question that he asked all of us, he said, if I were in the NBA or if I was a baseball player or something like that, and I did the same thing, would it be unprofessional? And this is just a conversation, to get some thoughts and stuff flowing. But I kind of reworked that conversation towards this young leader, because what I came up with was I said, why do you feel that ponytail is unprofessional? She was like, well, it doesn't look right. I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's fine. But I'm trying to drive her to the point to see, like, your perception of what professional is based upon what you experienced, what you've been exposed to. That's where your perception of what professional looks like. And I think that's why a lot of leaders are having issues right now with the changes, right? They're having issues with the changes because of what they've been allowed to do and what they've been exposed to in the past makes this feel unfamiliar, right? We talked about that word familiar, right? Like means familiar. So they are unfamiliar with these new policies and things that we have, and they don't like it. They don't like it because they're unfamiliar with it based upon, what they've been exposed to. So to our 12 folks that's watching right now, what are your thoughts on this? Like, about the new policies and people being unfamiliar with what we got, with the whole professionalism piece. I want to hear, if anybody got anything they want to throw in the chat, go ahead and throw in the chat. If not, I'm gonna keep on moving on, because like I said in the beginning, we talked about confirmation bias, we talked about like, and how this feeds into change, right? So as we continue to have that conversation, and some of the junior soldiers, they chimed in as well. And the same thing, like, the theme remained to be the same. Like, this does not look professional. So we got to go back to what's in black and white. All right. What's in black and white? Are they doing something that's within the confines of the regulation? If the answer is yes, we've got nothing to say. We've got nothing to say. Like, you can have your personal opinions. There's nothing wrong with that. You can have your personal opinion. All right. Well, big Sergeant Purdy, what we got over here? A lot of times, okay. Okay. A lot of times what looks professional. Okay. You got to give me a little bit more than that, brother. I think I understand what you're saying, but just give me a little bit more. I don't want to misquote or misexplain what you put on here. But we as the conversation as the conversation ensued, we just got down to the root of it, and at the root of it, the root of what we were dealing with is because, and that's another issue, is a lot of times when we have conversations with our young folks, we're not actually addressing what the actual issue is. The issue isn't that they didn't think it was professional. The issue was that they didn't understand why they thought it wasn't professional. All right, my brother, big son, Messer Purdy in here. What we got here? It's based on eyes of the leadership of the leaders, and presence is pushed instead of regulation. Ooh, regulatory guidance. Okay, I agree. I agree 100%. That's that whole ism conversation that old TPSGL like to have. So when we talk about these isms, right? When you look at isms, like I remember when I was a young soldier, right? Back in the day, before I had all these gray hairs, right? We had in 670-1, there was a portion in there that talked about males wearing earrings, right? And there was always a portion that those leaders wanted to miss. I remember getting beat up by senior NCOs. You see a soldier outpost, they wearing earrings, you better jack those jokers up and get them straight. But this is the part that they missed. What the regulation said, now if I had a copy of it, I probably do got a copy somewhere, I'll pull it up. But what the regulation actually said was that males cannot wear earrings on duty, in uniform, on an installation or a piece of property owned and maintained by the U.S. Army. That's what it said. So if they're not on post, they're not in the training area, there was nothing stopping them from wearing their earrings, but it got pushed. If you see a male soldier on post, you need to get on them and make sure they're not wearing those earrings. And I was always that guy. Not me. I'm not doing it. I tell you what, if I see a male soldier on post wearing earrings, unless you can show me something in 670-1 that says that I need to do it, I ain't doing it. I'm not. It's too many rules for us to enforce, to be out here trying to make up fake ones and enforce them because you don't like it. And I feel like it's a sorry, Purdy, you tell me what you think. I feel like it's a generational thing, right? Because if you go back 2-3 generations ago, those older males, they didn't like the whole earring things, but they had gold teeth, right? They didn't like the earring thing. So next generation come around, you get males that start wearing earrings, but they weren't so much wearing the gold teeth, right? And then you get the next generation come around, you got these little jokers out here, with their little skinny jeans and stuff. That's their thing. That's what they like. It's cool. It is what it is, It's kind of like I heard somebody put it one time. They said, dang on, when we talk about a conversation, communication happens on the receiver's terms. So this younger generation that's coming up, they're the receivers. They're the receivers. They're gonna replace us, and even with the change, even like to more change. Like let's talk about the recruitment thing we got going on, right? I believe they extended it through, I want to say March, because it was going to February. I want to say they extended it through March, where those young soldiers who are coming up on recruiting orders and volunteering, they'll get that $5,000 and they'll be promoted to staff sergeant upon completion of graduating school. There's a lot of senior leaders out there that got an issue with that. There's a lot of senior leaders that's got an issue out there. I ain't gonna call none of their names, I ain't that guy. But there's a lot of senior leaders that got issues with these young soldiers going out here, going to recruitment school, and they ain't gonna get promoted. And like the not so gray beards say, this ain't the first time that this has happened. But the thing that I have an issue with is this: why would you be upset about somebody getting promoted for getting a huge inconvenience? Like, we talking 2 weeks notice. They got to be in school, they got to get trained, and then probably 90 days out of it after that, they're going to have to pick their families up and move them probably across the country to a place where there's not a military installation, there's no family there, there's no nothing. Like, they're literally being asked to uproot their entire life, when they could have had 2 more years or 3 more years at the duty station that they were at. Like, this is a huge inconvenience. And you got leaders out here that's upset because these young soldiers have an incentive. They're going to give them some money. They're going to promote them. And, and on top of that, they're going to get great training. They're going to get some great communication skills and stuff like that they can take back to the force when they get done with recruiting. But you got leaders who are upset about it. They're saying like, oh, we're going to have all of these immature leaders running around here, this, that, and the third. It's almost as if they forgot that we were at war for the last 20 years. And the same exact thing happened. We just called it a battlefield promotion. But I guess those promotions were more deserving than, these young people who have answered this call, the nation's call to get more folks inside of our great military. But I'm gonna get off my soapbox. We got a couple more things over here. Let me see what we got. My brother Purdy over here. All right, let's see what we got. I agree, it's a generational thing. We deal with several examples today. Don't get me started on mustache then. Oh my God, bro, don't even start with the mustache. It's like, I got stories on that one for days. It's about what's authorized versus deemed acceptable. And hey, that's facts. And I'm gonna keep talking about this until people hear me. Like somebody told me, they say, when people get tired of hearing you, continue. Continue, because now you're finally getting through when people get tired of hearing you. But if you look in the front, Samantha, I'm coming to you next. If you look in the front of any AR or DAPAM, you're going to see two things. You're going to see the supplementation portion, and you're going to see the exception of policy portion, right? Proponent and exceptions. So the proponent and exceptions is basically like, this is the person who has the authority to provide exceptions of policy. Because you'll hear a lot of leaders say, I'm going to assume risk. Are you assuming risk, or are you deliberately doing something that you were told not to do in black and white and said, hey, if you want to do this, this is the person who has the authority to give you permission to not do X. That is in black and white. I didn't make it up. It's right there. Go look it up. It's there. You go look at any AR, DAPAM, you're gonna find it, right? But like back to because in the 82nd, it was the same thing. We paratroopers don't have mustache. Hey, this paratrooper had one for 20 years. Mustaches and sideburns. All right, let's see, Samantha, what you got here? Let's see. Since junior soldiers, civilians are not familiar, leaders need to put into time, provide sources to be familiar with policies and regulations. Are you as an NCO willing to teach, guide them? Okay, good point. Or are you unwilling to put in the effort? Example shown, this new generation help me understand with the regulation and counseling. Counseling is mentoring. It is not counterproductive. This I need to do some of these officers don't know because they don't read. Nowadays, no, Samantha, that those are all great points. The thing I would say is this, and this is something that I recently learned that I didn't understand before, right? I think when we talk about reading regulations, I got it. Each regulation is written at, I believe they said a 6th grade reading level, right? It's not that our youngest soldiers don't have the capacity to read. And I'm not saying this is what you said. This is just me making a point. What I've come to understand is that our younger generation doesn't have the context to understand what's in the regulation. And this is no knock on their intelligence, because think about it like this. When we were coming up in school doing algebra and stuff, you do algebra, you do geometry, then you go to calculus, and there's building blocks. Imagine if you went straight to calculus and you had never done algebra, you had never done geometry. You wouldn't have the context to make sense of what was in front of you. And That's what I'm seeing now with a lot of our younger soldiers. And to your point, I think that's where senior leaders come in, is that we can sit down with that soldier and we can make um we can get bridge that gap. Like we can provide context to them, because it can be something as simple as you sitting down. Because I've done this. I've had soldiers, because I'm big about regulations. Like, as non-commissioned officers, the only thing we have to stand on is what's in black and white. That's it. You don't have anything else. If you don't know what's in black and white, you'll be bamboozled every time, right? So what I'll have soldiers do is I'll have them sit down, and when they ask me a question, I'm like, all right, what regulation can you find that in? They'll tell me. I'm like, let's go to it. We'll go to it. We'll pull it up on the computer. I'm like, look through the index and tell me where to find it. They'll find it. They'll go to it and they'll read it. They'll read the whole thing verbatim, but they won't understand it. And the reason they don't understand it is because they don't have context to understand what's there. So once you sit there with them and they read it, and then you give them context, now they got something to go off of, instead of just telling a soldier like, hey, go and freaking figure it out. Go read a TM. And that's what kills me with mechanics. Like, you'll hear that all the time in the motor pool. They'll be like, a soldier come, they have an issue, don't understand how to do something. Leaders like, go read the TM. No, get off your behind and go out there and freaking show them. Because if they're coming in here, they're not just, people don't join the military to be sorry. I can't believe that. No one woke up and said, you know what? You know what would be the greatest thing in the world? If I joined the Army and did absolutely nothing. Nobody ever said that. Like, it's not going to happen, right? So it's about getting out there and showing them, right? We got to get out there and show them. Let's see what we got. OMAC in here. What we got? Let's see here. Agree. They complain about how they're undermanning. Yeah, it's true. It's true. TPSGL in the house. These comments, great discussion. Okay, all right. Okay, so brilliant. Yep, we gotta bridge that gap. We gotta bridge that gap. And I think if we have these conversations, and I talk about this, another shameless plug to the Not So Gray Beard, aka retired Command Sergeant Major Garrett Griffin. One of the things they had us do in ALC was vignettes. And this has been one of my most valued tools in my entire military career. When you can get a group of people to sit down and have a conversation that is not emotionally charged, that's not aggressive, is not competitive, is, surely just to get everybody to pour their knowledge into one pot so that we can all learn from that discussion, something beautiful happens, because everybody leaves the conversation. And when they leave the conversation, they leave with a different mindset. But you have to enter the conversation with an open mind. Now, one of the things I'm going to tell you about vignettes, if you want to use vignettes, you have to set ground rules. People have to understand that when we're doing vignettes, this is a judgment-free zone. Nobody's here to judge anybody. Nobody's here to say you're stupid or this, that ain't what this is. And if you're the facilitator for your vignette in your squad, your team, platoon, company, whatever, you have to make that known. You have to put it up front and let everybody know this is a safe space. We're here to learn from each other. There will be no judgment. This isn't a competition. We're here to make each other better, right? That has to be laid out, because if you don't, it's going to go sideways. But it's a great tool. It's a great tool. All right. All right. Let's see what else we got down here. Yep, I hate it too. I definitely do. A lot often when I hear people say go figure it out, they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to do it, and they don't know how to point you into the right direction to go figure it out. TPSGL in the house again on the ones and twos. No generation is the same, but it's funny to me how we as leaders expect everyone to think like and believe what we believe based on our differences of generations, experiences. Man, that is the truth. And I remember when Sergeant Major Chandler was the SMA of the Army. He came to Fort Bragg in 2010. I was a staff sergeant. And they selected 6 of us to sit down with him. And we go in and we sit down and, we eat lunch with him. And he said, he's having us ask some questions and this, that, and the third. And one thing he said that I'll never forget, I will never forget this. He said that, when he came in the Army in 1985, I was born in 85. I'm like, boy, this dude's old as dirt. But he said when he came into the Army, in 1985, the drill sergeants were saying the same thing that we were saying about our soldiers then, and probably people are still saying it. He said that his drill sergeants were saying that they were weak. Uh, they weren't good. We were going to be speaking German, or we were going to be speaking Russian, because the youth that we had would not be able to defend our nation, right? And that was in 2010. It's 2024, and I do believe that the official language of America is still English. So, with that being said, I think we gotta definitely stop looking down on our younger generation, and we got to start pulling them up. We talk about a succession plan, right? The folks who are gonna come after you, and I don't believe we do a good job at a succession plan. I think we could definitely do a better job at that. And what I mean by that is, we have to give the next generation a reason to. We have to give them a reason to, because when I was younger, I had all of these great leaders out here, right? I remember all of my first sergeants, they were all monsters. Like, these dudes had these big old gigantic biceps. They couldn't roll up their BDU sleeves. Like, they were physically fit. Like, these dudes were physically fit. And on top of being physically fit, they were extremely smart. They were extremely smart. They had degrees, they had written books. Like, these were very well-rounded individuals. And I remember watching those individuals as I was coming up through the ranks, and I was like, man, I can't wait to be where they're at. I can't wait to do what they're doing. And if we don't do that for the people that's coming behind us, we're going to have a problem. Like, we got young leaders right now that don't want to become non-commissioned officers. They don't want to do it. I can't be mad at them. I really can't. I can't be mad at them. Like, but to point out a problem and not have a solution is ignorance. And the solution that I have is this: is that we gotta do the whole be no do, like we used to talk about back in the day. You gotta be that example. You have to not only tell people how to do stuff. They say you got three types of teachers. A bad teacher tells, right? A good teacher shows. A great teacher demonstrates. Look at what it takes to demonstrate. Just think about it. Look at what it takes to demonstrate, because you can sit here and theoretically know how to do something. Like, I can have it in my head. I done read all the books. I done passed all the tests. But can you put it into action? Like, you sit here and talk about marksmanship. I guarantee you can have some folks sit here and tell you about the fundamentals of marksmanship, and they can tell you about trajectory and all this other stuff, and can't shoot worth a lick. Couldn't hit the broad side of a barn. They couldn't do it. But that's what I'm saying is, like, we got to become demonstrators. We got to get back to demonstrating things. We got to get back to showing folks and giving them a reason to want to take our place. We can't just sit here and look down our nose on people and say, like, how dare you not want to be or not want to do what I'm doing. It's not their responsibility. It's our responsibility as the senior generation and the older folks to give them a reason and to remind them why we do what we do. And if that reason, when we remind them, isn't enough, then they have every right to walk away from what we got going on here. But it's our responsibility. Like, when you become a leader or you become a senior, you've been charged with getting that next generation to want to take your place. That's our job. That's our job. All right, let's see what we got here. TPSGL on the ones and twos. For example, this generation is social media savvy. Facts. Like they're on it, but then you have leaders that have been an X amount of years that feel social media is is a downfall. Bro, that's a whole conversation right there. You trying to get me caught up out here, but we're gonna talk about it. But but mostly everything we do, everything we need can access via social media. Like, come on now, we have to embrace, we got to embrace the change. And so social media being a downfall, right? And we done said this a million times. Social media is a tool. It's a tool, right? And just like any other tool, you have to learn how to use it, right? But there has to be boundaries. There has to be restrictions. And I'm glad my brother said that. Mac, I'm coming to you next, my brother. I'm glad TPSGL said that, because I feel that in this day and time, we place too much emphasis on being happy and having fun. Yep. I feel we put too much emphasis on it because, like, if you sit back and you think about it, right? It's important to be happy. It's important to have fun, but too much of a good thing ain't gonna be good. If you only do things that make you happy, and you only do things that you deem to be fun, you're not gonna make it very far in life. I promise you that. I promise you that. You're not gonna make it very far because sometimes you're gonna have to do some things that you don't want to do. Like a young kid growing up and the parents making them eat vegetables. Kids don't want to eat vegetables. They want candy and snacks and chips and all that other good stuff. They don't want to eat vegetables, but they got to eat those vegetables to get the minerals and things they need in their body so that they can be successful in the future. So doing what's fun and dang on being happy all the time, that can't be your primary focus. If that is your primary focus, you're gonna pay for it on the backside. I promise you, you're gonna pay for it on the backside. All right, Mac, what we got here? So empowerment of the next generation is key, as well as showing them the way with true patience and well-balanced. Yeah. But overall, empowering them is very crucial. Letting them see they have a rightful place in the formation. Man, say that again for the people in the back. It's true. Like, and it blows my mind because I feel like a lot of seniors do this subconsciously. They don't realize they're doing it. Like, you get a young trooper, right? And the young trooper get married, and then somebody, they go into the unit to an older person or whatever, and they're like, "Hey, how long you been married for?" They're like, "Oh, we've been married for 2-3 years." "Oh, y'all still in the honeymoon phase." That's some passive aggressive crap right there, right? Because think about it. You got this young trooper or this young person that's happy about their marriage, or they're happy about whatever it is. And the first thing we do is we want to poke fun at them because they just happen to be born later than you were. How does that make sense? What did you just do to that young trooper's mindset? They you never know. You never know what people are going through, right? And this is done so much that I don't think leaders actually realize that they're doing it. It just you young, you wet behind the ears, you still got Similac driving. Man, stop all that crap. We don't need all that right there, man. Like, build these young folks up. Like, these young people should want to be around you. And I had this conversation, when we talk about that old T word that no one will say, toxic leadership or counterproductive leadership. I've heard people say things like, if when I come around, people get straight. And every time I hear that, I say the same thing. I'm like, look, that's cool. That's real cool. But you ain't always around. So how do you get anything done if when you come around, things get straight? Because if you're constantly around to make sure that things are getting straight, you know what you're not doing? Your job. You ain't doing your job. You're not doing your job. The only thing that you can leave in a room with a group of people when you leave is influence. That's right. And if your influence isn't strong enough to get done what you need to get done, you got some homework you need to do. You got to go out there and put some work in. You might have to jump back in the trenches and build your credibility back up to get that old buy-in, then eventually get the influence that you need to make sure the job happens. Like, sometimes we got to go back to the beginning and start over, because I've looked at this from several different angles. And the one thing I've always come to is this: when we're talking about leadership, leaders don't do things to get people to follow them. They do things and people follow them. I'm going to say that for you one more time. Leaders don't do things to get people to follow them. They do things and then people follow them. All right. I'm going to leave that there. So you ain't got to go out here and, read the whole dang on John C. Maxwell collection and thinking that that's going to help you become the greatest leader since sliced bread. Because you can read all that stuff, but if you can't apply it, you just wasted your time. You wasted your time. Let me go down here to my brother TPSGL. Good leaders talk about change. Great leaders improve. And 5 ways to adapt to it. Boy, stop. Hey, I can't with you tonight, TPSGL. I can't. He right though. It's these are facts. These are facts. You gotta embrace change. Change is coming. Change is permanent. It's permanent and it's often. And if you do not learn to pivot, you're gonna have some problems. You're gonna have some power. Hey, what's going on there, my brother? Oh, Brown in the house. All right. Oh, Sergeant Brown was one of my motor sergeants when I was back at Bragg. He's at Campbell, great non-commissioned officer. But tonight we're talking about change, right? We talked about a whole lot of stuff, and for Brown because he wasn't here. The basis of the conversation is this: like we laid down two uh, base rules, right? The first thing was we explained what like was. Like means familiar, something that you are familiar with. That's all like means. And then the other one was confirmation bias, right? So confirmation bias, summed up in sweet little bow tie and everything, is that you're gonna find what you're looking for. When we talk about confirmation bias, basically we will value facts that support our belief and we will dismiss those that go against it, right? So this feeds into change, because earlier we talked about a conversation that I had with a couple of young troopers in the motor pool, and they were talking about the female hair standard. And this was a female. She said, I don't get it. It's almost as if we're out here trying to have a fashion show. And her, not her, the confirmation bias based off of what she's seen in the past, what she believes to be true is what she saw in the past is professionalism, but rules are made to be changed. And one of the reasons that they went in and they changed the female hair standard from having to have the tight bun in the back was because there's a host of our sisters that lost their hair all in the front. Like it was gone. All their hair was gone because for 20 years they're pulling it back, pulling it back, pulling it back every day, putting it in a bun, and that hair just left. So why should they have to suffer through that when we could just make a simple change that would improve their quality of life in the long run? And that's where the ponytail ensued from, But let's go ahead down here. Samantha got something else for us. Okay. Yep. I don't want to do drill because I fear failure, but I still volunteer to get it out of my comfort zone. That's great. That's great. And we'll talk about the comfort zone next. Being a dental specialist is my job. I have done it for 14 years, but I want to become better in the soldier's aspect. That's why when I return to a dental unit, I can contribute and make an impact. You know what, Samantha, I'm gonna tell you this. From what I know of you and from the conversations we had and from what I've seen you post, you're making an impact right now. I commend you for stepping out of your comfort zone. I wish I don't have the photo right now, but there's a little illustration where they talk about the comfort zone, and there's a small circle in the middle, right? And they call that comfort zone. Like once you learn everything and you are good there, stress is you don't have a whole lot of stress because you're good at doing this. You can go ahead and knock it down. You got to do what you just talked about. And there's another circle on the outside of it. And that's the uncomfort zone. And the crazy thing about this is that you keep leapfrogging because that comfort zone is going to become bigger and bigger and bigger. And the bigger that comfort zone becomes, that just tells us a couple of things, right? It tells us that, for one, you have built a massive array of skills. You're very versatile. Like you can do these things seamlessly without having to commit very much mental capacity to doing it, right? And that's why we have to keep jumping out into that next arena, right? All right, let's see what we got here. Okay, the best followers don't just follow a leader, they follow the leader's mission and vision. The leader is but an embodiment of that purpose. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. And I agree, right? There's this concept that I stole from John C. Maxwell, and he has these scenarios. Now, the first scenario, um, Doc, I'm coming to you next. The first scenario is he talks about there's two things, there's two reasons uh that people can follow you, right? Either the person is following you because they believe in you, right? Or the person is following the idea that you're pushing. And here's how the scenarios play out. There's three scenarios. So, scenario number one, person absolutely does not believe in you, but they believe you have a brilliant idea, right? They won't follow you. They're not going to follow you, right? Person thinks that you have a horrible idea, but they believe in you. They'll follow you, but they're constantly going to try to get you to change your mind. So that's scenario number two. Scenario number three, person believes in you and they believe in your idea. That's ideal situation, right? We're gonna move mountains. These are the units where you know they have the most success because people are bought in. Uh, that influence is working the way that it should be working. We cooking with grease. The when someone buys into you first, then they buy into your idea. That is ideal, right? And a lot of times, what leaders will do is like we will try to push values, beliefs and ideas on people before we try to sell ourselves to people, right? So if I come to you and I sell myself to you, and when I say sell myself to you, like I, I am genuinely interested in you as a human being. I want to know about your family. I want to know about what's your dreams and aspirations. I want to know what are your hobbies. I want to know all of this stuff because I'm genuinely concerned. I want to know because in my head, my little pea brain head over here, maybe we got some things in common where maybe I can help you out with it, or maybe there's some stuff that you can do to help me out. But either way, I am interested in you as a person. I'm not interested in the things that you bring to the fight at this moment necessarily. You're more important to me than the fight, right? So once I, get these things from you, and I've shown you that I'm here for you, you're more likely to follow me. You're gonna want to follow me. You're like, dang, you know what? Big Sar, he different. He sat down and had this conversation with me. Every time he see me, he asks about my family. He remember my kids' names. Like all of these things matter, right? But often what leaders do is we try to push off values, we try to push off beliefs, and before we do all that stuff, we need to sell ourselves to people before we try to sell our beliefs and values and things like that. Because, like we said in the second scenario, right? In the second scenario, if they believe in you, but they don't believe in your ideal, they'll follow you, right? But you can get them to buy into the ideal because they've already bought into you. All right, let's go down to Doc. All right. Take a hard assessment. X challenging duties. Yep. Duties. Diamonds are made under pressure. Man, Doc, that's facts. That's facts. That's facts. They say pressure do two things: bust pipes and make diamonds. It's true. You need adversity. There's a book called what is it? The Problem is the Way. The Problem is the Way. And that's a good book right there that talks about that. Like we need adversity to grow. We need adversity to grow. There's an old saying that says that hard times make strong men, right? Strong men make easy times. Easy times make weak men. And what the young man said was that he said his grandfather walked to school, or his great grandfather walked to school. His grandfather rode a bike. He drove a car. His son is gonna drive like a Mercedes, and his great grandson will be back to walk in the school because the adversity is what really hones your skills and sharpens your blades and makes you strong. And when there's an absence of adversity, a decline happens. A decline happens. All right, let's see what we got here. Oh, Son Brown. I think one of the biggest reasons we as leaders fell short is not because we're not believed in or that there are certain things about us that our followers that haven't believed in, but we're not personable anymore. All right. A lot of leaders seem to pass the buck on a lot of things. Okay. So, Son Brown, when you say personable, because that can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. Give me an example of personable. Like, what do you mean when you say personable? Yeah, give me a little bit more on that because no, I agree. Because what I think to be personable may not be what you think to be personable, and I don't want to take away from your comment. I'll tell you what, Son Brown, call me on my phone, and I'll just put you on a mic because people will be able to hear what I'm saying, hear what you're saying as we do this. If I can find my phone. All right, disregard. I don't know what I did with my phone. It's around here somewhere. I'm all scatterbrained. But yeah, just drop it in the comment what you mean when you say personable. But no, I do agree. We do have a lot of young leaders that will pass the buck, and we got a lot of senior leaders that'll pass the buck. Now I ain't got my phone in here anyway, man. So just drop it in the chat what you mean about personable. But we do have leaders that will pass the buck. They'll pass the buck. And passing the buck isn't good for the organization, and it's not good for the development of that leader. Because here's the thing, I promise you this: every time that you pass the buck or you fail to learn something, guess what's going to happen? It's going to come back again. And guess what you're going to have to do? You're going to have to find a way to pass the buck. So eventually you're going to get to the point where somebody's going to hold you accountable. And they're going to be like, nah, I don't want this person over here to do it. You do it. You do it. You go ahead and do it. It's kind of like a kid cheating on a test, right? Kid cheat on a test. You know they cheating. All right, cool. Got you. Next test come around. Kid cheats again. All right, too easy. Hey, come here, little Johnny. You're going to stay out the class. You did so well on that last test. I want you to take this other one right here. I want to see, because something's going on here. And if it is what I think it is, we're going to have to move you up to a more advanced class because you're so smart. So just go ahead and take this test. When Johnny sits down in that chair, and when he sits down in that chair, guess what? He ain't got nobody to cheat off of. So the truth comes out, right? So it's the same thing with passing the book. Like if you are truly passing a learning opportunity to somebody, then cool. But don't pass the learning opportunity that you should take advantage of yourself, right? Don't do that, because there's a difference between delegating a task and dumping a task. Like if I'm dumping a task, the things that I'm not taking into consideration is how is this going to help further develop the person that I'm delegating this task to? That's one. Two, does the person physically have the capability to do the thing that I'm asking them to do? Three, is what I'm asking this person to do going to be harmful to them as a person or to their career? And these are all things that we need to take into consideration when we're delegating tasks. Like there's a big difference between delegating a task and dumping a task. All right. So we get into the top of the hour, and we're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. I think we had a good discussion tonight. Like I said, I didn't come here today with anything earth-shattering or groundbreaking. This was a reminder. This is a reminder to leaders to do self-reflection, right? Take that mirror and put it up to your face and look into that mirror and look at what's looking back at you and see if it's what you want it to be, right? When we talk about change, we need to be slow to anger and quick to step back. Take a step back, right? Take a step back and remember that, that's the one thing as non-commissioned officers, that's one of the things that makes us great, is because we've been there and done that. We've been there and done that. Now, the thing that we got to remember is that when we were there, we sucked at doing it, right? You ain't always been as great as you are right now. That was something that happened over time, or that's what we like to tell ourselves, right? This is how we perceive ourselves. Like we have blind spots. We may not necessarily see where we're failing at. And then you may have so much rank, or you may not be approachable, and people aren't coming to you to give you that feedback that you need to fix what you need to fix. So when we hear things that's unsettling, or we hear things that we don't agree with, have enough emotional intelligence and social intelligence to be able to step back from the situation, do some reflections, think about where you came from and where you're currently at, and then respond. And respond in a way that it helps that young individual grow. I was talking to Latoya, no middle name Green, Sergeant First Class type today, and she was telling me about how she ran into these young soldiers, and they were so motivated. They were E5s, and they were just so excited and motivated about doing 20 years in the Army. And that's rare right now. So that's something that needs to be celebrated. Like we have young leaders who are out here hungry. And I know there's a lot of young leaders out there that's hungry right now. There's a lot of them out there, but when we find those young leaders, we have to give them a reason to want to do what we're doing. All right, before I close it out, Unc in here, let me see what he got for us. Change is one thing. Willing to change is another one. Sergeant Major retired Harris. Hey, Unc, I'm under the tree. Facts, all facts. All right, we got one more over here. David Frank. Okay. T, providing feedback, counseling, coach, mentor was recently updated just last month. Even the naming consistency change. It used to be titled The Counseling Process. A lot of what you discussed today is APT changes, investigating personnel into your teammate. Okay, facts. People delivery, amongst other great topics. I encourage you all to look into it. I was impressed with the update. Hey, there it is. There it is. Hey, this is why this is NCOPD Live, because you have people coming here bringing you facts, publication numbers, updates, all of that stuff. So there it is. Hey, David Franks, thank you again. I appreciate that. I appreciate you dropping that on us. So to wrap it up, leaders, let's give our people something to strive towards. All right. Let's be those leaders that we want to emulate, or the leaders that we wish we had. Like either path, it don't matter. If the shoe fits, you can put on, there's two shoes and one of them shoes is gonna fit everybody. Either you're gonna be the leader that you wanted to emulate. I had a lot of them. I had a lot of them. I have, and this is gonna be a whole nother topic. I got another show coming up, and we're gonna talk about mentorship. Our mentorship, the way that we approach mentorship is broken. All right, it's broken, and that's all that I'm gonna say about that into the show. It's broken, but we got solutions, right? We have solutions. We will never bring a problem or bring a topic without a solution. But the way that we approach mentorship is broken, but we have a solution, right? So let's give our young leaders something to strive after. So either be the leader you want to emulate until you figure out the leader that you want to be, or become the leader that you wish you had. Okay. Other thing, change. Like I said, step back, do some reflecting, and remember when we were where they were, we sucked at it. We just got better over time. Afford them the same opportunities that was afforded to you. Okay. And lastly, look, this is what I done heard. I don't know how true it is. I'll let the audience be the judge of it. They say that attitudes are contagious like colds, right? They're contagious like colds. The other thing they say about attitudes is that your attitude is the one thing that you can control no matter what. In any situation, you can control your attitude, right? Now, if attitudes are contagious, you control your attitude. My question to you is this: is your attitude worth catching? All right, leaders, look, we'll be talking to you soon. Have a good night. And thank y'all for joining us here on NCOPD Live.
On behalf of my advisors, the NCOPD Live team, we would like to thank tonight's special guests and for all of you that have tuned in to tonight's show. Until next week, we'll be seeing you soon.